Hello and welcome to Royal Butterfly 994, where wings take flight. I'm Donna, and today we're exploring two fascinating royal perspectives. Princess Diana in her own words and Sarah Ferguson's personal biography. Now, these two women married into the royal family at nearly the same time. They shared similar experiences, and yet their stories unfolded in very different ways. And what a lot of people don't realize, even to this day, is that Sarah and Diana are cousins. Now, today we're going to compare their early lives, their marriages, their struggles inside the royal family, their public images, and their lasting legacies. So let's just get started here. Princess Diana married King Charles III. At the time, he was then Prince Charles, Prince of Wales, in 1981. 5 years later, Sarah Ferguson married Prince Andrew, Duke of York, in 1986. Both women were seen as fresh, relatable, and modern. Now, I know that Sarah Ferguson has had a lot of problems today. We understand that. But I want to go back a bit. She was very popular. She and Diana were very popular. People liked their interaction together. They were very close. Yes, they had a falling out period, but, and I'm just thinking off my head. I'm not, I'm kind of like going offside because I want people to understand that Sarah Ferguson was very popular. But we know what happens in the royal family when you're popular. Just like they attacked Harry and Meghan, they attacked Sarah Ferguson, and they attacked Diana because they were popular. Fergie, as everybody knows her, was a little different from Diana. She was more flamboyant, but her and Diana got along very well. Okay? There was an important difference. Okay, Princess Diana was very young. She was 20 years old. She was shy, inexperienced, and stepped into an enormous global spotlight. Okay, when I first saw Diana, I thought, oh, he finally did it. He found his princess. Everyone felt that way. He was always talking about finding the perfect woman, and he did. Now, Sarah Ferguson, who we call Fergie, like I said, she was more outgoing, confident. She was already familiar with royal circles, and she actually knew Prince Andrew for years before they married. So from the beginning, their personalities shaped their experience. Now, Diana was quiet, sensitive, and deeply emotional. Sarah Ferguson was warm, spontaneous, and sometimes, and most often, impulsive. I would say, personally, that Sarah Ferguson was her own worst enemy. Because, she wasn't like Diana. Diana was more, she understood what she was going through. She did everything she could until she just couldn't do it anymore. She made up her mind. Diana made up her mind that she was going to leave. Fergie never wanted to leave. See, I think that's one difference between Sarah and Diana. Diana left of her own accord. Diana decided she wanted to leave. She did everything she could to stay in that marriage for the sake of her children, versus Fergie, who didn't want to leave, and Fergie was actually forced out. And you guys might not know about the scandal. We'll get to that later. Now, in Diana, her true story, that's the one based on Diana's own recorded conversations. And when we hear about her private struggles, and she spoke about feeling isolated inside the royal family, struggling with media pressure, feeling unsupported in her marriage. She was battling loneliness and emotional pain. And one of the most powerful themes in Diana's story is her search for love and acceptance. Now, at the time this book came out, Princess Diana said she didn't write it. And we all believed her, okay? And then there was this incident, because the press were saying one of her friends wrote it. And what Diana did is that she went to see her friend. And when I saw that on television, I said, oh, Diana wrote this book. Diana had a way. We had become so in tune to her sign language. It's just something. I knew when she went to see her friend, Diana wrote that book. Okay? She said she didn't, but she wrote it. And I tell you, just like Spare, when we didn't know what was really going on in the royal family, that's the way Diana's book was. Now, Diana, she described entering the royal family life with hope, but how gradually she began to feel overwhelmed about the expectations and the traditions. Now, Diana also discussed her personal struggle with confidence and identity. Despite her challenges, Diana developed a deep connection with the public, and we developed that connection with her. I mean, the moment I saw Diana, I knew she was a princess. She was that kind of person. And we all had the same reaction when we saw Meghan. Now, I want to tell you guys something. Like I said, Fergie is disgraced right now. Okay, something she'll never get over. We know why, the E-Files. But Fergie was also perfect for Andrew. And I believe that if the royal family hadn't kicked Fergie out, okay, they really made it difficult for Diana and Fergie. They thought of them both as nothing but vessels of royal power. Just something to give them children and then just scoot these people along like they didn't mean anything. And I believe if they had not did what they did to Andrew, he was really, really devastated by those pictures. Now, at the time, there was rumors going around that he just felt that the royal family should not have let those pictures come out. He felt at the time that they should have did something to protect Fergie and protect his marriage. Now, that is what I heard. This was way back when this went on. Okay, and a lot of you guys weren't even born yet when this stuff took place. But yeah, it was a mistake. After that, Andrew didn't do anything. They said he wouldn't get out of bed. He became very belligerent, and he just went downhill after that. Even though Fergie lived with him, it wasn't the same. And the royal family did that. Charles, oh God. It's just so bad. Because, Princess Diana, after she died, she said she just wanted to be the queen of people's heart. And she became known as the people's princess. Because she's always been compassionate. You can always see that she had a lot of empathy. And you could always see that she was emotionally, in tune with everything. And, Diana did a lot of work. AIDS. You guys don't realize just how much work Diana did with AIDS along with everybody else. But Diana would go up and touch people, and that visual taught people that you can be touched. I had seen back then what happened to people with AIDS. I can tell you it was very, very disconcerting how people were isolated and thrown out of communities. You don't hear about what AIDS people suffer back then anymore, but they suffered greatly. And Diana was one of the people that stopped that suffering a bit, okay? She did the landmines. She made landmine awareness available. And since Diana did that, you don't hear that much about people suffering from stepping on landmines because she helped change that and help make it better. She always was visited people in all kind of places and children in hospitals, and she was just so loving. You can see all that in Diana's legacy. Diana's story is emotional and personal, and it is a story of being vulnerable and of resilience and growth. Now, when we talk about Sarah, okay, Sarah, she talked about her own journey. Now, someone wrote Diana's book with her help, and Sarah talked about her journey. And, just like Diana, she talks about entering royal life with excitement and hope too. Now, same thing, Sarah talked about feeling welcomed, struggling with royal expectations, the media criticism and scrutiny, which she had a lot of. Challenges was something that she had to balance with her royal duty, and she got a lot of flack for the way she would dress, and they were constantly comparing her to Diana, but she was completely the opposite person. Now, Sarah was more outspoken and informal, and that created tension because she was a very modern tomboy type of girl. She was just athletic and outgoing, and she was like boisterous, and they didn't like that in the royal family. Now, she talks about in her biography her marriage to Prince Andrew, the time she spent apart because he was always gone on his naval duties. She talked about the media criticism of her behavior and lifestyle. And unlike Diana's deeply emotional tone, Fergie's story is more conversational and reflective. She often expresses her humor and warmth even while discussing difficult moments. Fergie is just like that. She's just very outgoing. Now, both women, Diana and Fergie, experienced intense media attention. Princess Diana became one of the most photographed women in the world. There are, oh my gosh, untold amounts of photographs of Princess Diana. Now, Sarah, used to be Duchess of York, also faced heavy media scrutiny, about her weight, her lifestyle, and her personal relationships. Now, both princesses experienced public judgment, but their responses were different. Now, Diana became more private and more guarded. But Sarah, she remained open, and she continued to do things out in the open. Now, as we know, both the women eventually divorced. Now, Princess Diana and King Charles III, as he is today, they separated in 1992 and divorced in 1996. Now, Sarah Ferguson and Prince Andrew, they separated in 1992 also, and they divorced in 1996. Now, they have this parallel timeline. Both women entered the royal family together. Both women faced challenges. Both women separated in the same year, but their post-royal lives were very different. Now, after Princess Diana divorced Charles, she focused on a lot of humanitarian work. Princess Diana, redefined what it meant to be a modern royal, even outside the monarchy, just like her son, Prince Harry, and his wife, Duchess Meghan, are doing. Now, Sarah Ferguson focused on writing books. She focused on charity work, media appearances, which she did a lot of, and personal reinventions. And she did try to create an income for herself. But looking in hindsight, from what we know from the emails, I think that one of the reasons why Fergie was not as successful as she was is because she always seemed to financially fall back on her little friend with the letter E. Now, Sarah did try to reinvent herself, and she seemed to be resilient, and she did remain close to Prince Andrew, and she maintained strong family ties. But what we're learning from the emails is that there was this attitude that Sarah had of recklessness, and it seems to me that she was right there with Prince Andrew. Used to be. He is no longer called Prince Andrew. He still has his title, as far as I know. As far as I know, as long as Prince Andrew has a title, so does the Duchess of York. Because remember, her title is tied to her husband's title, I think. I'm not sure about how she's using that, okay? But the recklessness, she should have been steering her family away from the E-man, but instead she was talking about marrying him. Now, it doesn't mean that she's completely responsible, but I don't know. I don't understand what, it's just so mind-boggling to me about these e-files and these emails and the things that Sarah and Andrew did. It's just let's talk about the different personalities of Princess Diana and Sarah. Diana is more sensitive, emotional. She's more compassionate, and she had a quiet strength. And Sarah Ferguson's outgoing, warm, humorous, and she was resilient. And these personality differences shaped how each woman handled her royal life. And as we know, a lot of things when we talk about Sarah, the E-files is just, that is her legacy, people. Okay. We're talking about the past, but when we talk about the present, okay, like the legacy of Princess Diana, she's global. She did transform how royals connected emotionally with the public. Now, Sarah Ferguson's legacy is controversial. Okay? You can say she's resilient. You can say that she tried to reinvent herself. You can say that she had family loyalty. Both women did contribute to the modernizing of the royal family, each in their own way. But Sarah has the E. And what Andrew did while they were, I don't know if Sarah ever was on the, But we know that Andrew was. So I want to just talk about that these two books, they're different, but they're equally important. You know, Princess Diana's story is deeply emotional and personal. Sarah's story is reflective, resilient, and warm. Now, this book was written before the E-Files. So Sarah's legacy has changed. Now, both faced challenges, both left lasting impressions, and see, they still are. And both continue to fascinate us today. Now, I just want to say that you're just breathless when you think about everything that has happened between Sarah and, the things that we know now. It's horrible. And she's taken her children down with her. Listen, I want to thank you for joining me today on Royal Butterfly 994, where wings take flight. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Did the story of Princess Diana touch you? What do you think about Sarah Ferguson's legacy now? And if you enjoyed this Royal Book Review, please leave a like, subscribe, and join our growing royal community. Please share this with all of your friends. Share it with other Sussex Squad members. And if you'd like to support Royal Butterfly 994, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Royal Buttee. That's BUTTEE. Now, your support helps keep these royal stories coming. Until next time, thank you for watching Royal Butterfly 994, where wings take flight.